Ayan, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Welcome back po sa ating Canon Law 101, the teachings of the Church, on this season 3 ng ECQ, ng Lockdown Part 3. So, dahil sa lockdown na yan, nagsimula itong program natin, no? Dahil nasa bahay po tayo at maraming oras at maganda na matuto at umabot po tayo ng part 3 ng ating lockdown and ipagpatuloy po ang ating kaalaman. And so we are going to talk about a very interesting episode, the ministry of teaching in the church, no? The ministry of the word, the role of the magisterium, kung saan galing yung authority of the church, anong nangyari kapag naiba yung isip o hindi sumasang-ayong at humiwalay or nagrebelde, ano bang tawag doon. And many of this kind of relationship from us to those who are entrusted with the teaching function of the church. So, Father Jigs, before we go to this particular topic for today, can you give us some little review ng nakaraan? Anong napag-usapan natin noong nakaraan Tuesday or two Tuesdays ago?
Okay, magandang hapon po sa ating mga kaibigan na watching our live streaming. Bali po last week nagsimula tayo ng bagong let me call it a season kasi kung kayo po ay merong canon law, nasa third book na ho tayo. At yung third book po refers to the teaching office of the church. Ito yung prophetic mission natin, di ba? Priest, prophet, and king. Ito yung tumutukoy doon. Sa law po, of course, ang canon law doesn't tell you what to say, no? What to preach, and yung content na catechism. Kasi po hindi naman yun ang place ng canon law o ng catechism, no? So what we find in the code are yung mga duties, obligations ng Christian faithful in terms of this function or teaching office ng simbahan. So yan po. Parang dinefine dito yung tungkulin ng simbahan mismo as a whole. Tapos yung hierarchy, yung mga pare, Santo Papa, yung College of Bishops, yung mga obispo, tapos yung mga pare at yung mga ordained minister. And in fact, also all the faithful that we all share in the responsibility of teaching the faith to others.
So tapos I remember you taught us the three important parts in the life of the church for us as people of God, that we are all equal in dignity, but that also we are all different in functions. We have different functions and ministries in the church. Charism, and then that there is the hierarchy that puts order into this life para hindi maging chaotic, no?
Correct, yeah. So ito yung three fundamental principles governing the body of Christ, the people of God. Ito yung tatlong principles na ito. And we should always remember this kasi this is what makes us unique, no? Tayo po, equal tayo in dignity, but we receive different gifts from the Holy Spirit. We perform different ministries and functions in the church, but we are governed by the hierarchy to give order to our diversity and also to maintain the equality of the people of God, yung kanyang unity.
Ako ay very interested sa topic ngayong araw na ito kasi feeling ko this is something very relevant sa panahon natin ngayon. Ewan kung nararamdaman mo, Pats, medyo tumatanda na tayong pare. And let's say few years ago, there was no questioning of the magisterium. There was no... Now it's very normal to read na parang kino-question ang Santo Papa, kino-question yung mga pronouncement ng Santo Papa, even kino-question yung mga obispo, yung mga ganon. And I feel it's very sad because it touches the heart of being Catholic. This unity by governance is something very unique of the Catholic Church. and very beautiful and instituted by Christ himself, no? So
Mhm.
let me ask that the office of teaching in the church, the prophetic function, napag-usapan natin nung nakaraan, no? Pero ibabalik ko yung tanong na yan, ay para sa mga pare lang, para sa ordained ministers lang?
Mm. Yun pong, yung task ko ng proclamation ng gospel belongs to the faithful.
Mhm.
Now, it is therefore the church that has the responsibility of transmission of the faith.
Lahat tayo.
Lahat tayo. Pero
Mhm.
merong aside from transmission of the faith and transmission,
Mhm. Mhm.
meron din kasing definition.
Mhm.
Sabihin, yun bang yung pinapangaral, yung
Mhm.
sinasabi mong mga katuruan, ito ba ay tama? No. Now,
Okay.
the definition or the task of saying this is correct teaching, this is not correct teaching belongs to the
Mhm.
hierarchy,
Mhm.
specifically the bishop and with them the Roman pontiff. So those are two concepts na dapat maliwanag ko sa atin. Kasi yeah, all of us are tasked with transmission of
Mhm.
the teachings of the faith, no, in our own ways as ordained, sina Bishop Robbie as bishops, Pope Francis as the head of the Universal Church, pero
Mhm.
even the lay and even
Yes,
married
yes.
couple, even yung
Okay.
mga single, lahat tayo
Yes.
meron tayong ganun.
So yung transmission of the faith, lahat tayo ay mayroong obligasyon, may katungkulan, may kakayahan
Yes,
pati, no? Now,
yes.
yung definition of what that faith is, sino
Ang ano niyan, yung correct understanding
ng
ng
faith, deposit
ng
of
faith
faith?
natin, of course,
Mhm.
is the task of the magisterium.
Mhm.
The magisterium, of course, this is we refer to the pope, the bishops, ayan, magisterium. Sila yon, sila talaga yung merong, kasi sila yung pinamanahan ng depositum fidei,
Mhm.
yung mga obispo. Sila yung apostol, tapos yung mga apostol ang tagapagmana nila, mga obispo. So they have the task of defining what is correct understanding of the faith.
Mhm.
Oo.
What if I don't agree? For example, let's say mayroon sinasabi ng Santo Papa, but not necessarily is not sabihin natin is not a matter of dogmatic definition.
Mm.
Okay? For example,
Mm.
let's say yung pinaka-latest was yung Latin Mass that the Pope
Mm.
asked to be controlled and let the local ordinaries decide when and where the Latin Mass can be and cannot be celebrated. Okay? Maraming tao ay umalsa at
Mm.
hindi sumasang-ayon. So, to what point in the Catholic Church we can disagree, to what kind of teaching we are free to disagree, and to what kind of teachings we are bound to agree, or we fall into the other things that we are going to talk later on that will be uh, apostasy,
Mm.
being a schismatic, etc., etc. So, to what point I can question and say I don't agree with Pope Francis in Familiaris Consortium in Amore Laetitia, for example. At
Mm.
to what point a Catholic can disagree with the magisterium openly, and to what point, if you cross that line, you are not in communion with the church anymore.
Okay. So, we have to distinguish different types of teaching.
Mhm.
Kasi may mga teachings sa simbahan talaga that are defined, that are definitive.
Mhm.
Once they are definitive, we are bound by Christian obedience, no, to obey
Mhm.
the teaching that the Pope or the College of Bishops defined or proclaimed definitively.
For example,
Well, the dogma of the Assumption,
okay,
of the Immaculate Conception, the Trinity. These are
the
doctrines
real
that we have
presence of Jesus in the
of Jesus in the
Eucharist.
Eucharist. So these things, no. Meron din mga bagay na na they also teach pero non-definitive. But it doesn't mean that just because you're non-definitive, pwede ka nang hindi sumunod, no? We're still bound by religious assent of our faith, no? Meron pa rin ganong klaseng level of kumbaga, obedience to what the teachers of the faith are telling us, no? Yun, dapat maliwanag yun. Pag definitive, or even if non-definitive, but basta they express doctrine in faith and moral, we're bound by obedience of the faith to follow what they teach. Ngayon, of course, may mga bagay din na the Pope teaches or says na hindi naman sila talaga we can say non-definitive, at the same time hindi din sila definitions of doctrine. So pwede naman talagang iba ang opinion ng ibang tao, no? Pero may iba kasing ang hangganan niyan ganito, yung obstinate, yung matigas ang ulo, yung obstinate denial or parang ganon. Obstinacy, no? Contumacy, yun ang difference. Kasi pwede namang iba talaga ang then you keep quiet about it. For instance, no, itong pinakabagong Traditionis Custodes. Custodes. So parang this is law. Batas to, hindi siya definition of a dogma or a doctrine in the church, no?
Okay.
So this is a what do you call this? This is a discipline that the Pope Francis is imposing. So yeah, people do not agree with it, no? Some people, like those who think that dapat hindi regulated yung celebration ng mass ng extraordinary form would not agree with that, no?
Okay.
In fact, we already see na hindi talaga siya part ng doctrinal Hindi part ng doctrine kasi with Pope Benedict XVI, iba ang legal rito. Iba ang law dito, 'di ba? If you remember. Yung sa kanyang Summorum Pontificum. Tapos kay Francis naman iba. So ito yung sasabihin natin na parang hindi ka naman talaga bound by obedience in the same way that it is called for when the Pope defines a dogma or when the Pope expresses definitive teaching, pero all the same, out of reverence for the Pope, dapat meron ka ring deference sa kanya.
Yes. Sa akin,
Right
yun ang parte na parang naaalarma ako, lalo sometimes seeing some very, very ultra-conservative na young people especially in the church, no? To the point of saying, for example, ayan, yung Bergoglio na yan, that lack of respect for what the Holy Father represents for us, correct. I think that's more dangerous than any kind of rite. If you celebrate the Mass in Latin or in English, it's more dangerous if we lose our source of unity. Because in the Pope, as a vicar of Christ, we find our unity.
Yes.
So when you question or when I decide to agree, only when I agree, parang ganon. Parang if I agree, then he is the vicar of Christ. If I disagree, then he is Jorge Bergoglio na lang.
May mga ganon pala, no?
Parang that's very dangerous, no? That's very dangerous for us Catholic, because I understand that you can agree or disagree, you can like it more or less.
Yes.
But until what point disobeying the Pope or lacking respect for the Pope, I mean, until what point that puts you in a dangerous road.
That's why, no, if you cross the line, no, for instance, there is the concept of heresy, no, which parang denial or doubt about the truth of the faith, no? Ayan, that's heresy. Yung mga teaching ng simbahan, kapag kinokontra mo kasi sometimes, halimbawa, hindi ka sa teachings, no? Or you taught differently. Tapos yung teaching mo, it can be contrary to what is being taught, or contradictory to what is being taught. Kapag contradictory, directly opposite. Kapag contrary daw, it can be another way of looking at it. No? Pero parang very, very thin yung distinguishing mark ng line nito. So, but anyway, so yeah, but when a person becomes obstinate, kumbaga, hard-headed.
Yes.
Oo, talagang pinagsabihan na halimbawa na kino-correct natin na tama na.
Oo.
Yun, doon nagiging heretic ang isang teaching.
For
So some
example, if I would say, okay, I don't agree, therefore in my parish we will continue with the Latin Mass. I don't need to ask permission from the bishop because Pope Benedict said any priest can do it. And what Pope Francis said, I don't care because I don't like him.
ah,
So with that kind of attitude, that puts me in, even if it's not a matter of faith, it's a matter of what?
this is meron kasi term dito yung schism, yung not submitting to the authority of the Roman Pontiff.
Mhm.
It's called schism. So this is another offense, no, against the unity of of religion. Yung schism, schismatics ang tawag sa mga tao na ayaw mag-submit sa kanyang authority.
What
So
happened to them?
well, kapag notorious yung kanilang yung kanilang refusal to submit to the authority of the Roman Pontiff, o kaya kasi obstinate, pabalik-balik at in spite of ano. Actually sa canon law ano yan, by the mere act itself, that's lati sententiae excommunication. So it's deprivation of certain of the sacraments. So mahihiwalay ka talaga sa unity sa ng simbahan eh.
For
Kapag
example,
ikaw ay
if you
schismatic.
say, I heard this now, but I heard also from the time of John Paul II and Pope Benedict. If you said it's sede vacante, the Pope is an impostor.
Yan.
He's not the real Pope.
Yeah.
Is that a cause of
Yeah. So schism is an offense no, in canon law, no. It's a crime. Medyo kaila ano yan that this hurts the unity of the church, no, schism. Yeah, it is a declaration of refusal, no. So makita mo talaga 'yon. But I think the approach has always been to be very firm and yet to ano
bring
ba
them back?
to continue to invite them back to the fold. You know, parang ganon.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
kaya hindi na kagaya dati na medyo head-on. Ngayon medyo, and this is my personal take ha. I think yung ginawa ni Pope Benedict XVI is really a kind of opening doors for them. And yet, what Pope Francis did is not to close that door, but to, kasi ang kanyang reason is to preserve the unity of the church eh.
Yeah, I found
So,
very interesting. And sabi niya,
mm,
Pope Benedict had a very beautiful intention of
yes,
opening a door so people can somehow come back and feel at home. Now,
oo,
ang nangyari, lalo na compartmentalize, lalo
oo,
na humiwalay at tumigas at tumiklop sa position na kami lang ang tama, that's the only
oo,
right that is valid, the Vatican II Mass is invalid, and so parang lalong tumigas ang position, tumiklop ang puso. And so I love the expression of Pope, if there is something beautiful in the Roman Catholic Church is one rite, one liturgy.
oo.
That
So,
wherever you go, you celebrate the Mass in the same way everywhere in the world, no? In a different
oo,
language, but it's always the same. Hindi yung tipong kami ay of yung lumang Mass, kami naman sa
oo.
bagong.
Hindi, medyo yan, that's really conflict if you take that position. Extreme kasi yan eh. And we
Yes,
see that in the church, we don't have to go to extremes.
correct,
Ang
correct,
simbahan po, malawak ang spectrum.
correct,
Just don't go to the far extreme of things and rejecting the other end. Mahirap po yun.
correct,
At the
correct,
same time, hindi naman ba pwedeng sobrang progressive
correct.
kasi that is also a danger, no? So I think the
Yes.
Pope is really trying to balance things out.
I think both of them, they were trying to strike a balance, no?
Yes, oo.
Kasi in the time of Pope Benedict, there was a much felt tendency na yung Latin Mass ay wala na, walang silbi, walang
Oo,
kwenta. And
oo.
so Pope said, no, that's a valid way of celebrating its beauty. it's historical, it's traditional, so it's very beautiful. So
Yeah.
let's respect what is valid. And Pope Francis said the same. Now, what he said, don't go to the other side of the pendulum. Na ngayon, the
Mm.
Mass of Vatican II is the invalid one. So
Mahirap
parang
yun, no?
parang there
Very
is a question from Mark, no? Question lang po. What if we disagree with the provisions of Traditiones Custodes on the Latin Mass, but still respect the Pope, but disagree with some of the provisions of the motu proprio?
Unang-una, as I said, this is a motto. This is, in that sense, this is law already. So may mga bagay na sige, you don't agree with certain laws, no? Pero you have to still comply for the sake of common good. Oo. You have to comply for the sake of common good. You have to saka disagreeing with it, what does that mean? Yung disagreeing, anong klaseng ano ba yan? Anong klaseng disagreement ano ba yan? Anong klaseng saan galing yung ano? So is that kasi I think meron talagang mga positions na very far to the right. And I think hindi natin dapat hindi yan ang solution to to our problem. So yeah, we still have to obey because it's law.
It's law. Okay. Question ni Esther, will an act of schism excommunicate you automatically, or you have to be declared excommunicated? And if you have to, who excommunicates?
Yung notorious public schism really excommunicates the person automatically. Late sentencia excommunication by the, sabi nila, ipso acto, or by the act
By
itself.
the act itself, the moment you
Oo.
commit the act, it has that penalty already, no?
Yes, oo. So
Oo.
hindi na siya kailangan, hindi siya kailangan, no need to have it. Well, hindi na kailangan hintayin yung declaration for the penalty to take effect. So the schism happens upon the commission of the crime or the act of schism. If it's declared, of course, it's I think it's served to the Holy Father yung kanyang remission, yung schism excommunication, lahat served to the Holy Father. Therefore, the one who is the Apostolic See, nag-declare niya, no.
Another question of Mark, Father, yung pag-alis ng celebration ng traditional Latin Mass sa parishes, which regularly na sineselebrate. So you ask what part you disagree with the
Ito
document.
yun.
So ito ang yung pag-alis ng celebration ng traditional Latin Mass sa parishes, which regularly na sineselebrate. So I think yes. Yun ang parte na if I understand well, yun ang part na nagdi-disagree si Mark. Kasi
yeah.
what the Pope is asking is, first of all, you need to ask permission of your bishop to celebrate. And second, do it in a church but not in a parish. So I think the point of Pope Francis is, let's go back to in every Catholic parish around the world, we celebrate the Mass with the same rite. One faith, one rite. Parang ganon.
It exactly nire-regulate, no? Even if it's regular in a parish na itong traditional Latin Mass, ang gusto ng Pope dapat humingi ng permission yung celebrant, yung presider ng Mass.
Yes.
Tapos isa pa yata ngayon is to designate yung place where this is regularly celebrated.
That is not a parish church. Yun ang isa sa mga...
Yeah,
so yun ang part na Mark disagrees. And so putting this question in the context, so it's okay to disagree. So I respect the Pope. I recognize the Pope. I follow. Let's say I'm parish priest, and since ayaw ni Pope na i-celebrate sa parokya, I will follow. I will not celebrate anymore in my parish church. I will ask the bishop, and if the bishop agrees, he will designate a place, a shrine, or another church kung saan gagawin yung... I can dislike, I can disagree, and still be very Catholic.
Yeah.
What I cannot is disobey. If it's law, it's not up to me to follow or not. If it's law, I have to follow, right? There is another question from Rainer. Question lang po, Father, how should we approach the SSPX po? Valid po ang misa nila? Yung Society of Pius X.
Mm. Well, medyo ako as canon lawyer, alam ko yung what it meant before, no? Membership in SSPX. Pero as I said nga, ngayon medyo we are soft. We approach that issue very softly now, more accommodating, more respectful. So we do not say ang mas invalid. I think that's already out of the question. Kasi meron naman silang mga validly ordained priest. And sa canon law, ang mas valid as long as it is the one who celebrates is a validly ordained priest. So yun ang
Yes.
isang bagay dyan. So I'm not saying it is not valid. Ang mahalaga kasi is I think yung at this point yung welcoming back yung mga hindi nag-agree o yung after Vatican II how do you call it? Nag-withdraw ng kanilang submission doon sa authority ng Roman Pontiff. So actually it's more of ideological. And especially I notice mga young people ang mga nagkataon ng ganung no? Kasi they're the ones who are attracted to that kind of that kind of mass. Tanda po ninyo, I think we really have to appreciate yung the liturgy itself, no? Whether it is extraordinary form or ordinary form.
I could not agree more with you, Father. I think that's the real point, no? We cannot be fighting about what language do we use. It's the Eucharist. It's the Eucharist. Now, if kung sabihin mo na, ay, feel ko kasi in Latin, o feel ko naman na in Tagalog, well, that's okay, but the Eucharist is much deeper than what you feel.
Yeah.
You cannot limit to what makes you feel. Hindi ito droga na ipapahay sa atin. It's something much deeper. So even if I go to a parish in China, and it happened to me when I was in Korea, I used to go to the parish and I could not understand one single word, but it's our Catholic Mass. I know that it's Christ, that I know He's present. So it doesn't matter in what language it is, it's Christ Himself. We cannot be fighting over the sacrament of unity.
Yeah, correct. Especially the Eucharist, no? Yun talaga ang kanyang Tsaka po, kasi sabi nila, yung language, no? So ang pagkakaalam ko, ang operation nito is ang how do you call this? Yung mechanism nito is ex opere operato.
Yes.
By the mere act of performing, it is valid. Sometimes hindi yan dependent sa atin eh. Not even on the minister. It's really it's really the Eucharist's power, no?
Correct.
So dapat maintindihan natin 'yung kasi bago tayo. But siguro Padre Luciano, meron talagang meron talagang fascination with the sacred, no, with the mysterious, no?
Yes.
And I hope we keep that even in the ordinary form of the Mass.
Yes, correct.
Sana din talaga iwasan lang din yung sobrang
yung binabastos kasi binabastos din yung yung Vatican II Mass. It was so many abuses.
Marami abuses eh.
Na ganon din nawala ng focus, and the Eucharist, the mystery of the Eucharist is the center. Nothing that we do, the language we speak, the songs that we sang, the especially not anong klaseng suot ng pare na sutana, nothing makes it worthy. It's not like it's solemn because I wear this. No, it's it's solemn because it's solemn. That's it. You have martyrs that have been celebrating the Eucharist in their hand with a drop of wine in their hand, and in prisoners' clothes, and the same worthy Eucharist. It doesn't matter. Correct. So I think we have to go deeper than the details, no? Okay, there is a question here na maybe ganon din ang tema, no? Can we say that the Latin Mass is an essential part of our faith because the Latin is consecrated to the body and blood of Christ when He died on the cross?
Parang masyadong yung word na Latin, the Mass.
The Mass.
But it's Latin
actually,
Mass lang.
We need to correct this.
Oo.
Jesus did not spoke in Latin.
Yeah, correct.
So, yung huling
Middle
hapunan,
Ages yan, eh. Middle Ages
yes.
talaga yung Latin na
Oo.
yan, eh, yung liturgy na
Yung
yan.
huling hapunan was in Aramaic,
Correct, oo. Not in
not in
Latin.
Latin. And for the beginning of the church, the writing of the New Testament and the formulation of the first Eucharistic prayers was in Greek. So all that came eventually into Latin. So Latin was not spoken by Jesus, not by Peter, not by Paul, not by it wasn't the language of the church at the beginning. So okay, eventually became. Kaya it's very traditional, it's very old, it's very historical, kaya mahalaga. It's very beautiful also. It's very
Kaya
beautiful.
maganda din ang Latin, ano? We're not saying na
Oo.
hindi siya maganda, but we cannot say the Latin Mass is essential part of
Oh,
our faith,
the
no?
mass. Oo, the
The
mass.
Mass itself, oo.
Yes,
Kahit anong language yan,
correct. Not the language.
vernacular, oo.
Yes,
Oo.
I agree with that.
Hmm.
Meron pang questions dito. Dumadami ang mga question topic na ito. Talagang,
Mm.
let me say, another one from Mark. Ask ko lang po ulit regarding sa case ni Father James Martin na openly na dinidefy ang stand ng simbahan regarding same-sex marriage and the German bishops na dinidefy ang teaching ng simbahan, lalo na yung recent stand ng Vatican on blessing same-sex unions. Why were they not being punished or censored by the Vatican for their disobedience and defiance to the Catholic teaching?
Okay. So this is a totally different issue, ano? And I hope that hindi siya connect sa Latin Mass in such a way na na para lang ma-clarify natin po, ano? Kasi we are talking about the Latin Mass, suppose this comes up. And tapos ang sabi dito, ang tanong ay bakit hindi sila napapunish or censured by the Vatican for disobedience, no? I'm sure that there are many avenues for correcting them, no? And through, for instance, si Father James Martin is a Jesuit, no? And I'm sure na like provincial, provincial, no? Tapos yung German bishop, yeah, medyo sobrang progressive ang kanilang, yeah. Ito nga sasabi ko, 'di ba? Sobrang progressive ng kanilang stand. This is the other end nga, ito namang sobrang traditional. So why are they not being punished? In the same way na we don't really, kasi ang punishment should not be the first thing that we should have in mind for those who are deviant, eh. But to convince them to go back to to what is acceptable, what is in keeping with the Catholic faith, no? But I'm sure that there are ways to reach out to them para sila ay somehow i-correct ang kanilang stand, no? Pero yan, ito nga yung isang extreme na sinasabi natin. By the way po, yung ibang mga nabanggit na issues dito, the church has really made a stand regarding these issues. And hindi naman nagbago ang Pope dito, eh. Hindi naman nagbago, eh. Siguro sasabi niya lang siguro, let's be more compassionate to those who are not
Yes.
able to comply with these teachings.
Yes. Let me complete by saying na talagang ni-ratify, especially in Amoris Laetitia ng Santo Papa, na the stand of the Church in the indissolubility of matrimony. Matrimony is between a man and a woman only.
Yeah.
The opposition to gay marriage. All these issues were clarified. Therefore, if a priest goes strongly, stubbornly, let's say, nagdesisyon ako na sa parokya ng Kristong Hari makakaroon ng kasalang ng gay couples, the bishop will try to talk to me, to convince me, to reprimand, maybe to remove me, eventually to suspend me, and but if I keep doing it, eventually I will be excommunicated. So, parang mas mahaba ang pasyensya ng simbahan after many centuries.
Yes.
Mas natuto siya na bigyan ng chance sa mga tao. Alam niya na may mga pare, lalo mga obispo na minsan, lalo pag matalino, mas matigas ang ulo, mas feeling alam ng lahat. Kaya minsan dahil doon, nagmamatigas, binibigyan ng pasyensya, pero it doesn't mean that they are not in the road to a punishment. So for example, if the bishops of Germany, of course, we are talking about the whole church in Germany, kaya very dangerous. So they will go very slowly in trying to appease them, at the same time to defend the teachings of the church. Now, kung talagang sila ay not openly nag-defy and they will put and say outside the communion, well, they will be excommunicated. There is no compromise on this. There is more a pastoral approach ng pahabain ng pasyensya. Pero hindi ibig sabihin na hindi aabot ng punto ng ganyan. Talagang darating ang punto na they will face they will face penalties, no?
Oo. By the way po, ang Novus Ordo, meron ding Latin version, ha?
Yes, correct.
Dapat ma-distinguish natin yun kasi we can celebrate the Novus Ordo in Latin.
Correct.
Diba yung
Tanong ni
1962
Adel, sa Novus Ordo, daming LGBT, mga naka-make yung mga bakla sila, mga taong simbahan. Sana maayos na lang yung mga ganon sa SXP. Wala ako nakikita mga ganon. Well, I have to disagree with that. Marami akong nakita mga bakla din sa mga sobrang mahilig sa traditional at yung mga borloloy.
Closeted lang sila.
Minsan hindi rin closeted na talagang
talagang Hindi, ako din gusto ko sagutin, ha. Unang-una, this language is medyo offensive. Sorry for saying this, ha. Parang yung when we call somebody bakla, they are, no? They have that kind of orientation. Pero to call them that, tapos para silang excluded, parang hindi ganoon ang approach ng simbahang Katoliko. We're not saying na sin is okay, no? But sinners are welcome, di ba? Yun ang masabi ni Pope Francis. Maybe we should avoid yung ganong klaseng language sa simbahan natin. We are not promoting that just because we accept people of different orientations. Sila lang kasi kita yung kanilang kasalanan, pero tayo naman, yung hindi kita kasalanan, tanggap din naman tayo, di ba? So wag nating i-label na bakla yan siya, ay tomboy yan, wag yung papasukin. Hindi ho ganoon. Tapos I do agree with Father Luciano. Parang I don't agree na walang bakla dun sa grupo na yon. Parang feeling ko nga parang parang wherever we find these people in church kasi they need God, eh.
Yeah, anywhere.
Wag natin exclude.
Yes, anywhere. Tanong ni Dan or comment ni Dan, the Latin Mass was consecrated not because it was spoken but because the word INRI was written in Latin, and that label was pinned on the cross where it touched the body and splattered Christ's blood. Di po ba? Hindi po.
Hindi po.
Yes, INRI is Latin. It was put in the cross kasi it was capital punishment by the Roman Empire. But what the Latin Mass is sacred because of the Mass. It's the Eucharist.
Of the sacrifice of the cross.
It's the Eucharist that make the Mass a sacrament, the real presence of Christ, and therefore sacred. It's not the language.
Besides Father Luciano, hindi lang Latin, it was also written in Greek and Aramaic.
Yes.
In Hebrew pala, in Hebrew.
Yes.
So there was a version in Hebrew, a version in Latin, a version in Aramaic.
Yes, of INRI. But but the Mass, as we know, from the Last Supper until many centuries into the church, was not celebrated in Latin. And that's okay. And that's okay. All right. Well, very good. There was another question dito. Wait. Yan. Si Rainier, tanong, is there a Greek Mass po ba? I mean, other than sa mga Eastern Catholic churches?
I don't know of kasi that's why we're called Latin Rite, eh. That's why we call yung ating rite a Roman Latin Church because our liturgy is in Latin. So reasonably I don't think siguro Greek like let's say no, merong Catholic Church in Roman Catholic Church in Greece.
Mhm.
So they would really celebrate the vernacular in Greece of the Latin liturgy. Parang ganun
Yes.
siguro.
Yes.
Oo.
Although it's also not the same Greek that was spoken at the time of
Of
Jesus,
Christ.
no?
Just yeah, correct. Oh, because
So
language evolves eh.
that language, I don't know if there is a translation into Aramaic of the Mass. I'm not sure kung meron. But kung meron, it's only scholarly. Ibig
Yeah.
sabihin na both the Aramaic and the Greek that were
The
spoken
Hebrew,
during the time of yes, they are not spoken anymore. They are not the modern
iba na.
Hebrew.
Yeah.
They are not the modern Greek. Kaya if there are, they are let's say academic translation, but
Mm.
not popular. So in our church, I think the oldest form that we keep alive is the Latin, uh, no, and then the vernaculars. There is sabi ni Adele, it's solemn because the Eucharist by tongue. Again, correction on this. It's solemn because of the Eucharist. Is not your tongue make the Eucharist solemn.
It's
It's the
sacred.
Eucharist that make that moment solemn. So if you
Mm.
receive it in the hand or in the tongue, parehas banal, parehas makasalanan. Ha? Kung
Mm.
ako'y nakasala sa tongue o sa kamay, it's the same. And so it's our unworthiness. No? It's so the way how you receive the Eucharist, it's something very internal. So again, the church gives us the choice. You can receive it standing or
Yeah.
kneeling, in the hand or in the tongue. But let's not say, pag hindi sa tongue, walang respeto dahil hindi po
Mm.
totoo yun.
Yeah,
Hindi
especially
po.
ngayon ano, with the
Oo.
situation, medyo ano, parang we have also to use our common sense.
Oo. Yan. Sabi ni Mark, salamat po, Fathers. I learned a lot from you. Isang question na lang po. Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict XVI, and Pope Francis spoke against liturgical abuses. Wala po bang magagawa mga bishops to stop those abuses, like priests not wearing proper vestments, not following the rubrics of the missal, or doing unnecessary things sa liturgy? Dapat po ba i-reject ng simbahan ng Latin sa liturgy? Di po ba pwede maging mutually nourishing both ang Novus Ordo and traditional Latin Mass?
Actually po, we already said na both are acceptable and these are different. One is called extraordinary rite and the other is the ordinary.
Mhm.
So lahat sila po ay nourishing, lahat sila ay acceptable, no?
Mhm.
Pero maganda yung ano mo, yung sinasabi mo, Mark. In fact, the bishop really is kumbaga siya yung he guards no uh, the discipline
Mhm.
of celebrations of the Eucharist in his diocese. So ang sagot, yes, meron siyang magagawa.
And
Mukhang
sagot ko rin, I feel na may na-advance. I've been a priest for 21 years, and I think I experienced more abuses in my early years as a priest. I experienced more, a lot of liturgical dances, a lot
mm,
ng kung ano-ano, yung vestment ng kung ano-ano. And
correct, correct.
then, I
Ngayon
think we
medyo
are,
ano na,
yeah, I think we are getting better. We are
yeah,
getting more,
nag-ano na.
yes,
Siguro
yes.
impact talaga 'to ng ano 'no ng we can say liturgical movement no na parang masyadong nawala yung regulations kasi
Oo.
wanting to be creative. Ngayon talagang may nag-swing talaga din sa more disciplined.
Yes.
Ako tingin
Yes.
ko ano kailangan talaga mag-aral lang mabuti ng liturgy yung mga nagpapare.
Yes. And I think it's a call to a deeper Eucharistic spirituality.
Yes.
The solemnity,
Yes, correct.
hindi galing sa pagiging very traditional.
Na, na,
The
nasa,
the interesting of the mass, it doesn't come from making it a show.
yes, oo.
So I think both ends that there
May
were a lot of
may danger.
excess. Oo,
Mm,
yun talaga. Hindi kailangan sumayaw, para maging interesante ang misa. Hindi
Oo,
kailangan
totoo.
punuin ng jokes na parang vice ganda ang pare para
Mm.
maging interesting ang homily. I think
Oo.
we are learning na the pendulum, both extremes are a sign of a lack of spirituality. When you realize that the solemnity of the Eucharist is in the Eucharist, and the Eucharist is interesting in itself because it's the real presence of Jesus. Kaya ako, I fully agree with Mark. Kailangan maging mas stricto yung pag-aayos, yung correction ng abuses. But my personal reflection looking back in the past 21 years, I think mas maayos ngayon kaysa 20 years ago.
Mm.
Mas nakita ko talagang mga bastos, no? mga invention na hindi malansang galing noon. Okay, there is another question, Father. Ito, I think it has to do with the magisterium. From Irol, what about Our Lady of Akita's warning about the sacrilege of communion by hand?
This is where that apparition becomes problematic. Kasi isa po sa mga inimbisagan ng commission on phenomenon is consistency with magisterium, yung ang apparition, yung message ng apparition. The church already said na yung talagang by hand is acceptable. So any alleged apparition that says that na siya ay sacrilegious, you tend to question the whether it is of supernatural origin. So kasi 'di ba
Yes.
ang God does not contradict himself.
Yes. Let
Oo.
me not only reaffirm but even correct Father Jigs. You don't tend to suspect. You just suspect it. Kasi kailanman hindi tuturuan ni Mama Mary lamang
Nang
sa pagtuturo ng Santo Papa.
correct. Oh.
And the magisterium, kung may apparition, huwag tayo, sabi ng visionarya na sabi ni Mama Mary, no. If what the visionarya said is against the teaching of the church,
Church,
yung visionarya na yan ay nag-iimbento.
questionable
Yes.
talaga.
Yes. So,
Oo.
be very careful with that. Dahil may maraming ganon apparition
Mm.
na talagang, so that, what defines magisterium is not someone saying, God talk to me.
Oo.
Ingat tayo sa mga ganon eh.
Oo.
Recently, may isang pastor na nagsabi na kailangan mag-fill up ng application before December 25 sa mga pupunta sa langit kasi sabi ng Diyos sa akin, be careful sa mga manloloko. They can be even well-intended, but be very careful. God does not work in that way.
Yeah, correct. So God doesn't contradict himself, no?
Oo.
So teaching natin yan, hindi yan God will not contradict that kasi it also comes from him. Sa kanya rin galing
Yes.
teaching na yun eh.
Yes. Okay. From Angelo, Dear Reverend Fathers, ask ko lang po, what can you say sa mga dumaraming kabataan na nakakaroon ng interest in traditional Latin form ng misa? Ano po ding ang iyong mga may papayo sa kanila? Salamat po.
Oo. I actually, I think this is a sign of a deeper longing for God, no? Pero yan yung mga gusto mong may mga mysterious, may mga medyo rituals na kakaiba or very solemn. But, searching for God should not stop there, no? Hindi lang yun ang dapat natin gawin. Parang, napapansin ko din, parang, faith is not, hindi lang externality din, ha? So, mga kabataan gusto nila yan, pero as you develop your maturity in the faith, mag-mature ka, mapapansin mo, it goes beyond that. So, pero magandang come on yan. In the same way na ng mga bata kami, bata ko, nagpara ko kasi gusto ko yung sutana. Pero I realized growing up na it's more than that. Hindi lang hindi lang siya, kumbaga initial stage lang yan. You have to grow deeper. You have to go deeper sa pananampalataya mo. And you're in your faith in the real presence of the Lord in the Holy Eucharist. Regardless of anong form meron siya, whether it is ordinary or extraordinary form. So, ang payo ko actually, magsimba. Pero magdasal din. Kasi baka naman, atin lang gusto yung dapat unawain nyo rin kung bakit ganun ang ginagawa.
Yes,
What is
correct.
behind it?
Yes. And from Rosan, with your permission pertaining to the Latin Mass, there are bishops who issue approval to some priests by means of a circular to say or may say Latin Mass. Yes, that's the point of the document of the Pope. Kaya hindi naman binabawal ni Pope Francis yung Latin Mass. Ang nire-refer is you ask the permission of your bishop. Kasi yung bishop on the ground will know kung, for example, hindi ko alam kung anong ginawa ni Bishop Robbie, but in Novaliches, there is no, parang walang conflict. So, if there is any priest saying Mass, and I know of one that says Mass in Latin, it doesn't create division at all.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm sure the bishop will allow him to continue.
Yes.
Kasi
Yeah.
it's promoting the beauty of the liturgy and it's not creating division. Pero may mga diocese kung saan may division na. Yung parang yung umaten sa Latin Mass, hindi kinikilala yung misa na hindi in English, for example. So, that kind of tension, it's for the bishop to put unity in his flag. So,
Yun
talagang binabagsak sa bishop.
Yun ang iniiwasan talaga, yung disunity na may potential talaga mapunta sa ganun.
Yes. A follow-up from a website about Our Lady of Akita's apparition, church approved. In backing up this argument, he quoted the pontifical pastoral instruction of Memoriale Domini issues by Pope Paul VI on May 29, 1969, which tell us that the faithful should receive communion on the tongue in order to protect their sensibility in spiritual worship towards the true presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. This pastoral instruction explains why the Universal Church introduced and mandated the custom of receiving, etc., etc. So, again, when the magisterium express, the apparition usually will not disagree with the teachings, will not question, because that wasn't the role of Mama Mary even among the apostles, and she respected that. I think she respected that, and we know how important Mama Mary is for the church, and we know how much she's really a light for the church and inspired and everything. But the deposit of faith was given to the apostles, and Mama Mary, I think, understood that very clearly. Nothing wrong.
He is the mother of the church, no? And therefore the source of our unity, not division.
Yes. Oo. Sabi ni Adele, kayo lang po nag-iisip na may division. No, actually, hindi. Hindi po, for example, you can go to a church. For example, I give you a Facebook page like the Pinoy, what is called? The true Pinoy or the real Pinoy Catholic, something like that. And they're constantly attacking the bishop, the cardinal, priests in the church. No, the division is not an invention. It's very real. And but I agree with you, Adele. Dito sa Pilipinas hindi malakas. Pero tandaan natin na the church is universal. May mga bansa na malakas ito, like in America, for example. May mga bansa like here or even in Latin America, hindi gaano naramdaman yung division. Kaya as I said, for example, kung ako ang obispo ng Novaliches, I think no problem with the Latin Mass kasi we don't have any problem. Wala naman division, wala naman. Pero may mga parts of the world kung saan malakas ang tension. So, hindi ito gawa-gawa lang issue. It's a real issue. I think the Pope is answering to a real issue. Okay. From Mark, again, pwede po bang i-receive ang communion on the tongue and kneeling? What will I do if I prefer to receive communion kneeling down and on the tongue, pero the priest refuses to give communion kapag di sa kamay? Bawal po ba mag-receive ng communion na nakaluhod sa kahit saan simbahan?
Mahalaga yung context, Mark, yung context. Kasi yung tanong nito, pag ang hindi natin inisip yung context medyo mali, no? Of course, under normal circumstances, you can receive the Lord in both ways, by the tongue or by the hand, kneeling or standing. Tama yan, pwede yan. Ang problema lang natin kasi ngayon, yung ating context, yung pandemic. Parang it's really proven na tongue to hand, saliva,
Yes.
possibly touching the hand of the yung transmission. Sana yung context na hindi mawala sa tanong na yan.
But
So,
what about Father, in because this is a question we received even before the pandemic, no? What if a priest refuses to give communion dahil mass type niya? So we are in the other again pendulum. We are in the other side of the pendulum, no? May mga tao na they feel if it's not in the tongue, it's invalid or is irreverent. May mga priest naman that will force you in the way they like, either in the tongue or in the hand. So, do we have the right to refuse communion in a valid way, where the communicant chooses? Can the celebrant deny?
again, yung context din ng ating rito, no? Pero normally, of course, you cannot deny. Hindi mo pwedeng pahiyain yung tao na gustong tumanggap ng communion by the hand. Or kaya tumanggap ng communion by the tongue. Kaya lang yung context din talaga ngayon, itong panahon ng pandemic. So medyo you're exposing the priest or yourself to contamination kung by the tongue, di ba? So yung context kailangan nating wag kakalimutan eh. Pero normally hindi po pwede unless, for instance, the communicant is an obstinate public sinner, no? Na known to be under sanction of excommunication. So yan, nasa canon din yan. No? Pero you cannot refuse a person's preference for receiving communion, no? Whether by the tongue or by the hand. Pero yung context talaga din, ha?
Yes,
yung context. Kasi mamamali ang sagot pag hindi context naisip eh.
Correct. Final question, not this one. This is a reminder. May mass po ba alas 6? Yes po, may mass po ba? So, matatapos na. So, itong question, I think, for continuity, why did Pope St. Paul VI on Memoriale Domini issue in May 1969 explain why communion the tongue was enforced before and why it must remain? So, is it possible, let me reformulate the question, and say, is it possible that one pope teaches one thing and then the other pope teaches a different thing?
In terms of discipline, posible.
Okay.
Because situation can change. Pero not doctrine, not moral definitions, no. So
this is one, for example, this is one liturgical practice, so it's not a matter of faith.
Yeah, maraming talagang. In fact, this is 1969, so you can see na medyo matatabo na siya ng mga bagong
teachings,
liturgical norms that came after it. So yun na po ang they keep.
Can a Catholic say, but I don't like yung tinuro ni John Paul II or ni Pope Francis, I don't like, so I will just stick with 1969 because I don't like 2021, I don't like. So I'll rather obey the Pope that was there in 1969, but I don't accept the change of the new one. Is it possible?
Medyo, as I said kanina, no, when it comes to discipline of the church, you have to obey. Now you can receive the communion by the tongue. Walang problema talaga doon.
Yes.
But to deny also that it can be received by the hand, that's another thing. Yan po ang medyo ingatan lang natin kasi extreme nga eh. Yan ang problema natin. Tsaka nga, ang simbahan kasi po, unity. We have to consider also the good of the body of Christ. Oo. Hindi naman siya hindi siya immoral to receive by the hand kasi nga as we said in the earliest form of liturgy of sa Domus Ecclesiae, talagang kamay nilang tinatanggap 'yon.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Father. I
you.
hope na naliwanagan, and we have to go back kasi we have to talk more into detail about the role of the magisterium, who is the one that defines the faith? Is it the single bishop? Is it the College of Bishops? Is it the Pope alone? Pag-usapan natin ito at anong mga sabihin nating kasalanan or crimes if
Offense.
we talk in the language of law. What are the offenses, the crimes against this unity of teaching? And we will talk about apostasy and schismatic movement, etc. Okay? So, abangan sa susunod, babalikan po ang magisterium of the church. Thank you, Father Jigs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At salamat sa mga nagtanong.
Thank you po.
Salamat,
Keep asking sa susunod. Opo.
Oo.
Salamat. God
Salamat.
bless po. Misa muna. Bye-bye.
Misa-